Hi. Y'all have to bear with me here. This is my first time doing something like this. I'm going to just tell you a little bit about us for those of you who don't know us. Jim got his first German Shepherd at 9, had his first champion at 13, went on to have a spectacular career showing dogs. I had my first German Shepherd at 5, bred my first litter at 17, and met Jim at a dog show. So we, at that point, Jim said we're handlers, not breeders, and it was a bit of a conflict of interest. And we advised clients, but we weren't actually breeding our own litters anymore. Then, like all of us who have dogs, Jim started showing a dog that he really liked. And my old bitch had died, and we had, I made arrangements to lease a bitch for me that was somewhat similar in the pedigree to my old girl. And he said, we can breed another litter, that's fine, because he liked that dog. Next thing you know, we have 5 litters. But the flip side of breeding, the heartbreaking part, that dog produced a tremendous, he himself was a very wonderful animal. At one point, he was number 2 all breeds. But he produced over 30% hip dysplasia and tremendous numbers of megaesophagus. I put 22 puppies to sleep before 12 weeks of age. And I almost never bred another litter again. It was horrible and heartbreaking. Fortunately, the litter that we had bred, when I decided I can't take this, I'm out of breeding dogs, we had placed her with a friend. And meanwhile, we had finished a nice young dog named Dallas, and we were deciding who to breed her to. And I said, well, how about that dog? And Jim said, oh, that's great, I love him. So our friends bred to that dog, and she had 10 very healthy puppies that I loved. And next thing you know, there we were again, breeding dogs. And we haven't stopped since. So they tease me in our breed that my mantra is, I want it all. They're going to tell you when you start trying to breed dogs that, oh, I remember when I started, I'd had German dogs growing up. And here I was with my little German dogs going to the matches. And I think that's how a lot of us got started in conformation. We maybe did obedience, or we did something else with our dogs, and we went to somehow we made it to a match. And the people said, somebody said, oh, that's a pretty dog. Have you shown it? Oh, I don't know. Can we show? And so you go to the dog show and you get a ribbon and you get bitten by the bug. And next thing you know, that's all you can think about. When's the next dog show? How far is it? Can I get there? And, then, it's not enough to get a ribbon. Now you want to win. So I wasn't happy with my dogs, and I decided, well, I want a winner. And I bought a bitch that was a Grand Victor's daughter out of a Grand Victor's daughter. And by 10 months of age, she had a number of health issues, the first thing came up, and I called the breeder, and she said, well, you got to give a little bit if you're going to have show lines. She had demodectic mange. Oh, all show lines have that. And the next thing you know, the puppy had mild hip dysplasia, and I was really not happy. And one thing led to it, and they kept telling me, oh, you can't have, you got to give a little. Well, then she was 10 months old and tried to bite my child, and I sent her back and said, okay, back to the drawing board. At that point, I was fortunate to get a good dog and went forward from there. But they're going to tell you can't, people are going to tell you, oh, you can't have this. You can't have it all. You have to give. And there is no perfect dog. But from someone who went to, oh, you can't, I have friends in Labradors, and some people, quote, don't care about health clearances. Well, that doesn't need to be. In German Shepherds, we have a number of dogs. We have a double Grand Victory. He won the national specialty in the U.S. and Canada. He received the Award of Excellence from our parent club. He's herding titled. He's temperament certified. He has the CH HiCliff from the health organization. We have 3 dogs that are Best in Show winners, that are Performance Award of Merits. The 2 boys are stud dogs for guide dogs for the blind. In Labradors, we have a champion master hunter who's OFA excellent, and a breed grand champion. You can have these things. It's not easy, but you can. You just have to try and use some common sense. So breeding good dogs isn't easy or simple or a matter of luck. It's hard work, and it can be heartbreaking. But if you're passionate about your breed and your dog, it can become a life's work. And it can be the greatest joy you'll ever have in your life, except for maybe your children. But maybe these are just your four-legged children, so pretty much the same. And it's hard in some respects to be a breeder today. You know, for many people, numbers are very limited. You know, the old days when you could have a lot of dogs and try breedings, they're gone for most people. Several years ago, I think I had 4 or 5 bitches that all came in season, and they, you know, for different reasons, they all had to get bred, and don't you know it, they all conceived. And I had 4 or 5 litters of puppies in 1 year. So I'm at a specialty a few months later, and a friend of mine came to tell me, you know, so-and-so and so-and-so over there, they said you were at Puppy Mill. And I was like, really? Okay, well, which Register of Merit, Best in Show, OFA Excellent German Shepherd bitch should I not have bred this year? You know? But the thing is, I mean, it's not politically correct to breed dogs anymore, certainly not to breed numbers of dogs. And economically, I mean, it's expensive. So our numbers are limited, so you have to put a lot of thought, not that you wouldn't anyway, but it's not as easy as it was when it was easier to breed more dogs. But here are my suggestions for someone who's trying to establish a consistent line of quality dogs. First off, you need to study your standard and understand the essence of your breed. Go to shows and look at the catalogs. You see a dog that you love going around the ring, go grab that catalog and say, who is that? Make a note on it. If you see a dog you hate, it's very fun. At dog shows all the time, I'll see one going around, I'll think, oh my. And I'll go look in the catalog, and I'll say, hey, can I see that catalog for a second? And a friend will look up at me like, why do you care who that is? I said, because I don't ever want to go near that pedigree. So pay attention to catalogs. Ask questions, and don't be afraid. Most good breeders would like nothing better than to talk about dogs all day long. I mean, don't ask them when their dog's walking in the ring. But any other time, just find a second, say, hey, is there some time I could talk to you about your breeding program? And most of them won't shut up, you know? They would like nothing better. What freaks me out sometimes is I get people that tell me, oh, I wanted to talk to you 2 years ago, but I was just intimidated. And I'm thinking, why? I mean, you know, don't be afraid. Go talk to people. Ask the questions. You know, if they don't want to answer, I mean, try to be polite. I usually make it to my second or third question before I say, why doesn't your dog have clearances? You know, but try to be polite how you ask, but you should be able to talk to them. Find a mentor. As you're doing this process, you're going to find people that you can get along with. Find a mentor. That's really in my opinion, having a good mentor that can offer suggestions and their own experience is the way to get started. For those of you who are established in your breed and just looking to do, a new outlook on things, talk to your friends. I don't understand why it is, but some dog people, and honestly, I think the best breeders are all pretty open about things. A lot of breeders get very, closed-mouthed, or I don't know if it's because of our egos or we're afraid somebody's going to know something bad about us. But I think that if we're going to continue in this sport, we all have to be honest with each other, both about our dogs and our breeding programs. This is an ongoing subject in my parent club. It shouldn't be if I breed to your dog or you breed to my dog, it shouldn't be a surprise to any of us what will we find in that whelping box. So the other thing you have to find, and I thought that the first presentation was really wonderful, is a good veterinarian. There is nothing in the world worse than trying to breed good dogs and not having a good veterinarian. It is so frustrating, as someone who sends out semen on a regular basis, to be trying to deal. I feel so sorry for some people because the vets that they're using just either aren't cooperative, or think breeders are bad, or just don't have the knowledge that they should have. I have veterinarian people telling me, well, my bitch is at 1.1. My vet wants you to ship semen tomorrow, and I'm like, that's really going to cost you a lot of money, because we're going to do it again and again, maybe one more time, But find a good vet, and you know what? I get people that tell me, oh, there's a really good repro vet, but they're an hour and a half away. I go to my vet that's 20 minutes away. No, my vet, well, I use two, and I am blessed. One of my veterinarians is the guy whose deerhound won the guard, the repro guy whose deerhound won the garden a few years ago. And the other one is a Labrador person who also does reproduction. So I'm fortunate. But one of them is an hour and 20 minutes from my house, and one's an hour and 40 minutes from my house. I do not have a local vet. I go to them for everything. Veterinarians tend to not be particularly happy with people who only call them at 3 in the morning for a C-section, and they go to a local vet for, all the stuff that would be their bread and butter. So something to think about when you're trying to establish a good relationship with a veterinarian. You want their time and best efforts, you should give them yours also. So, what do you think about when you're thinking about a breeding program? You want type, you want structure, you want soundness, and you want health and longevity. Those things are all equally important. Now, a lot of my feelings are based on my breed. We've had good success in other breeds. I think in all those other breeds, the same things apply. I'm sure there are people out here in the audience who have breed-specific issues that some of what I think and how I think are maybe a little different. But I think those things are all just really important. And part of it is because we're really fortunate that German Shepherds have a ready group of people who want a German Shepherd as a family companion. And the majority of our puppies now go to companion homes. And I think that we as breeders have a responsibility to those people. We cannot let our desire for our next champion do a disservice to our breed. So I think it's our responsibility as breeders to make sure that every litter we produce is as healthy and sound and has as good temperament, just is a good breed representative that can go off and be the kind of dog that those people are going to say, I want another German Shepherd. When my dog dies when he's 10 or 12 or 14, and we have a lot of 14-year-old dogs, I want them to come and want another dog. And that, for us as the show crowd, is what makes us more acceptable to the rest of the world, as opposed to a shelter dog. We don't want to be bad breeders that don't care about health issues because all we want is a champion. That's what they say on TV, right? So now you're ready to get your bitch, right? You want to get the very best bitch that you can. A lot of people, I hear them say, well, I got the one that was breeding quality. I don't mean this bad, but I have champions I wouldn't breed. It was like people would say, oh, these are the show dogs, and then these are breeding quality. For me, it's the other way around. There's breeding quality, and then there are dogs I can finish. Some dogs that are breeding quality may not be the best show dogs. But don't settle for mediocre. Get the very best bitch you can. And if it means you save up a little longer, or in our breed's case, a lot of the very best bitches that are available for someone on a limited budget or getting started, or maybe you don't have the contacts in the breed. In German Shepherds, we have a long coat recessive. Those animals frequently have excellent structure. And it's a simple recessive. There's a test for it, in addition to the fact that most of us know who carries what. One generation, that's gone. You breed to a dog that doesn't carry a coat factor, you get an entire litter of absolutely beautiful puppies that they're not long coats. A bitch you're going to see in pictures a little bit, she's the top producing dam in the history of the breed. Her mother is the one that we were able to get, an absolutely beautiful, beautiful bitch, tremendous virtue, but she was a little cowhocked. The owner had gotten frustrated because at all these 5-point majors she'd go reserve, and the judge would say, oh, she was magnificent, but she's cowhocked. So they put up this mediocre kind of animal over her that was just a dog because of this little problem. Well, we saw that and said, oh, we can fix that in one generation. And we did. And it worked out really well for us. So don't look past the obvious, but get the very best bitch you can to get started with. And look at her family. You do not want the princess in a bunch of paupers. Do not get, if you're fortunate to be able to afford or have someone who, says, oh, yeah, she's fabulous. Look at her litter mates. Look at her mom and dad. Those are the animals you're going to get when you breed her. I would much rather have the plain but well-made sister in a beautiful litter if I was starting out to breed a dog than a beautiful one in an ugly family. So now you're looking for your stud dog. You want to get the very best dog for your bitch. That may not be the most winning dog. If you have a beautiful bitch who's maybe a shade long in loin, and the dog that just won your national specialty is a beautiful dog, but he could be a little sugar coupled. Just because he's the grand victor this year does not mean you should breed to him. You'd be shocked how many people that's exactly what they do. Oh, he was grand victor, I'm going to breed to him. Well, he has the same virtues and flaws your bitch has. How's that going to help you? How's that going to move you forward? How's that going to give you the end result you're looking for? You need to breed for the dog that is going to complement your bitch, but also change what you would change, or you're going to try to. You need to study the pedigree. I am a big fan of line breeding. In our breed, I know in Labradors, very few people line breed. And I've asked why, and because I see a great difference in type and quality, even within a single litter. And the answer I got was because, they didn't used to line breed at all because there was such a problem with health issues. And that makes good sense to me because we want healthy dogs. But nowadays we have we're fortunate, we have so many genetic tests available that some of that's not really an issue anymore. In our breed, line breeding is a really wonderful tool. It enables us to set a type. You breed on a common ancestor that had a lot to offer, and we're going to see some pictures in a few minutes that'll show you kind of where we were going with that. And you will get a consistent type where you get 4 and 5 and 6 champions in a litter. And in my breed, that's previously not been very common. I know in some breeds it is. In my breed, it's not. But we were able to do that because we had a consistent type. There was even an infamous incident where someone accused us of switching dogs because they went from one class to later another show. They were 2 sisters, but they looked so similar, people swore they were the same dog. So, of course, we had to trot them both out together. You need to think about genotype and phenotype. Genotype is what your pedigree is, what your dog has genetically to offer. Phenotype, what does your dog look like? Do you need a better shoulder? Do you need a shortened up loin? Do you have long hocks? Think about what you need there. What we've found to be very successful in our breeding program is to have a tightly line-bred animal and then use an outcross breeding. By doing that, I think you get enough genetic diversity that you don't run into health issues, but you still maintain that type that you're looking for. A lot of people in some breeds like to do inbreeding. Scares the bejesus out of me. I know that in the old days, before we had the tests and whatnot, it was useful for proving a pedigree. There are still people who do it. Some of the pedigrees and some of the German Shepherds are somewhat incestuous. I don't do those breedings, but I will confess, I call those people up on the phone and I say, hey, what did you get? Because then I know, is it safe to go to those other animals for breeding, or do they have problems lurking? And again, there is no perfect dog. The key is not to double up on the problems that might be out there. And here's the big one. If you're going to be successful, you cannot be kennel blind. You cannot. And it's hard, because we love our dogs. We wouldn't be doing this if we didn't love our dogs. And these dogs snuggle up in bed with us. They lick our faces. They're what gives us joy every day. So it's hard to look at that animal and say, she's probably not good enough. I mean, that is hard. But, if you want to have a consistently good program, you have to be brutal. And it's been the downfall in my breed of many programs that were otherwise, started out to be really successful. Time went on, a couple of different ways. We had a fabulous German Shepherd breeder who had wonderful dogs. I always knew she had champion after champion, and her dogs did everything. She had beautiful breed dogs. She had dogs that worked on police forces. I knew that I could always send someone to her for a good pet. And she was, as I said, very successful in the show ring. But in the show ring, you always want more. And the next thing you know, she was getting a little bit lighter eye. And then there were some that hooked their tails a little. And then there were some that had a little bit of a digestive problem. And it just kept going on. And we bought a bitch from her that was a beautiful, beautiful animal. And I'd had her a couple weeks, and I realized that her poop was really kind of gray and gassy, yucky. And I called her up on the phone. She said, just give her Viocase. This is 15, 20 years ago. Just give her Viocase, that'll fix it. So I did that for about a week, and I thought, do I really want to have to put an additive in this dog's food so that it can digest its food? Is that where I want to go with my dogs? And I said, no, probably not. So I sent her back. And I'm really glad that I did, because a few years later, the bitch had perianal fistulas because her bowel movements were never formed, and they amputated her tail and blah, blah, blah. Well, this woman, she had these beautiful dogs. And in the space of about 6-8 years, she had dogs that had more flaws than they had virtues. She'd get the occasional really beautiful dog, but most of them were dead by the time they were 5 from bloat. This last dog she absolutely adored, dropped dead at 3, broke her heart. She got out of dogs. I think it would have been a lot better if she had just not gone down that slippery slope. They were good examples for me. We've been very fortunate. We've shown for many of the top breeders over the years. And literally, I know where some of the skeletons are buried. So for me, it was a little bit easier because I sort of knew, don't go there. But I have a three strikes you're out rule. Maybe this can be a little off or that can be a little off, but come up with 3 and they're done, and they go to a pet home. And sometimes a person has deal breakers. For me, deal breakers are things that impact that dog's ability to live a comfortable life in a companion home. In German Shepherds, for me, that would be megaesophagus, because I had that horrible experience. Ununited elbows, because a dog can't live in pain and they can't, a dog with mild to moderate hip dysplasia is going to lead a pretty normal life. They shift their weight to the front, they get along fine. Dogs with bad elbows, they're miserable for the rest of their lives. They can't shift their weight. They're pretty much done. Seizure disorder. I have people tell me, it's not that big a deal. Just they can have phenobarb. I know the first time I ever saw a seizure dog, I was freaked out. I can't imagine that happening in a pet environment with little children around. And bad temperament. A dog without good temperament is not going to be happy to be alive. And temperament is hereditary. Some of it's environmental and how we raise our dogs, but a lot of temperament is hereditary. And so is fertility, in my opinion. A lot of us as breeders, we're searching for that perfect dog. Excuse me. And we get this one we think is great, but it has very small litters, and we have to do crazy things to get it pregnant. Next thing you know, you breed that bitch. And she has an even smaller litter, or you can't get her pregnant at all. Sometimes you have to take a step back and go back to having a fertile dog. Otherwise, you breed yourself into nothingness. And we're back to the whole can't be kennel blind. So now you're going to evaluate your litter. And hopefully you've got this wonderful litter of happy, healthy puppies that are perfect. If you're lucky and you've got enough friends that'll help you out, or an extended family, you can keep several. Grow them up enough to know what you really got. Jim hates it when I do that, because then I want to x-ray everything at both ends, and I want to wait till everybody's teeth are in, and he's asking me, do I know how much all this costs? And I said, that's okay, honey, you can pay it. But if you can grow them up and see what you got, that's good. If you can't and you have to place your puppies, follow up. Call your new owners. If you've got a good breeding program, you don't have to be too afraid. I know in the beginning with me, it was like I almost didn't want to call, because it's like, oh God, I'm going to hear about this or that or whatever. But if you're moving in the right direction, and even if you're not, you need to know. So follow up. And follow up on your dogs. So you've gotten this imaginary, nice bitch that you started with as your breeding animal. check out what happened with her siblings. You know, the internet is a wonderful thing for that. You know, it used to be you had to rely on friends and hearsay, but nowadays you can get online and find out pretty much anything you want to know. But the trick with that is, you know, we have a good friend that shows for us, Kent Boyles, and some of his animals are of similar breeding to us. A lot of times Kent does breedings with animals that are my dog's siblings or cousins or something. And I'll call him up and say, hey, what'd you get when you did that? Or what did you get when you bred to so-and-so? And, you know, if you find out, well, you know, I really like the puppies. I got great forehands, but we got missing teeth. You know, don't be afraid to ask. You know, we should be helping each other. That would be the key to being successful in breeding dogs. Find a group of people that you know and can trust and share information. And it doesn't mean, oh, you know, I hate this or I hate that. Be positive, but share information. Because it doesn't mean that that's a bad dog. It just means maybe you won't breed the dog. You know, maybe your bitch, you know that the one bad thing about it was one of her siblings had a missing tooth. Well, so you're not going to breed to that dog because, but it's a tool. More knowledge is always a good thing, in my opinion. So, I guess that's about it for me. What do you think, Mr. Moses? We're going to go through some dogs? We'll go through some dogs. So this was Manhattan. He's the top winning male in the history of the breed.
Until the Portuguese water dog.
The Portuguese water dog passed him?
About, where have you been 3 months ago?
I've been at specialty shows and at home with, while my, you know, Captain Crunch. I didn't know that. Oh, I hate that. Although I will say that when I first saw that dog, I saw that Portuguese water dog. I'm sure all of y'all know him. I was at this little dog show a couple of years ago, and I was walking through, and all of a sudden my eyes focused, and I said, "Holy cow, who is that?" And I went, "Oh, hi," you know. And I called Jim on the phone that afternoon. I said, "Oh my God, I just saw the most fabulous dog. I mean, just knocked my socks off." And he's, "Oh yeah, him." But no, we have our 2005 Quaker Oats winner is 14, and is unspayed, and had an issue with some adenomas, and she had 3 paws. By the time she was fine that night. The next morning she had 106 and was trying to die. She had 3 paws in the grave. I was bawling hysterically because she is my best friend, and anyway. We got to the vet, and he said, well, you know, everything else, her blood values are good, her chest is clear, blah, blah, blah. So we did surgery, and she's now chasing me around the kitchen for cookies still. But that was going on. And then Captain Crunch, that most of you know, that Jim's last group, you know, Westminster winner, with the soccer ball, blew out his T1 and T2 somehow. And he had to have spinal surgery, $11,000 later. And we were carrying him out of the house for a month, but he's up and running around with a soccer ball again. So that's all good. But I've been a little out of touch. That's where I've been, Mr. Moses. Mr. Moses has probably been hunting. Okay, so this was Hatter. He's no longer number 1. He's the number 1 German Shepherd male. I guess he's the number 2 male dog of all time. This is Dallas. Dallas is the number 1 sire in the history of the German Shepherd breed. He was a moderate dog. He was a good mover. He had exceptional character. He was a beautiful dog. And when I say beautiful, I don't mean pretty. He was noble. He was handsome. His temperament was absolutely to die for. And he was exactly what our breed needed at that time. Our breed had gotten into a bit of a pickle. We had a whole lot of good movers and not a whole lot of attractive dogs. And when I say attractive, pretty isn't everything. But I don't know about y'all, but I sure like to look at something that makes me smile. And Dallas was a tremendous sire for our breed at that time. You know, he improved type, he improved character, you know, better feet, better color, better heads. Yeah, better underjaws. We were having a real problem with dogs that looked like sharks from the side. And Dallas was not anywhere near as extreme as he looked in that picture. When we first got him, he to show as a special, his photographs were substantially more foursquare. But we taught him to drop his butt, so he looked a little fancier. And some of the earlier pictures aren't quite so good, but this has always been one of his favorites, so there it is. This is Valle. Valle is the top producing dam in breed history. Now, Mr. Moses may not like this, but I will tell you she had a level bite. Yes. Which is probably why when I was placing dogs, she went to my friend. But she was a lovely animal. She had a long neck. Her shoulders don't look so good in this picture, but they were actually really pretty. More to the point, her siblings had beautiful shoulders. And when we bred her to Dallas, and you'll see some of the puppies here. Well, that's not actually okay. In a minute, this is a Dallas son. His name is Aries. We call him Bailey. He is the #1 living sire in the breed. His mother was one of Kent's bitches, and one of those Franjo bitches that we got to breed to Dallas. She had tremendous shoulders, really good body style. She was not particularly attractive, but she had the structure, the basic underlying structure that we needed to give us a little bit better side gait. That is what we need at our national specialty. And this dog has certainly been able to produce that. That dog was the first litter. There were only 3 puppies in the first litter. I think we bred a little late. All 3 finished. The second time we did that breeding, there were 6 puppies in the litter. There are 6 champions. One of them became the #1 dog all breeds in Canada. And, when you do a breeding that's quality, and again, Dallas had quality litter mates. He was a Grand Victor's son out of a Grand Victor's daughter out of a Grand Victor's daughter. Grand Victor is the title for the winner at our national specialty. There were 4 really, really, really nice animals in this pedigree, and in that litter. Then the breeding of this dog's mother, I think Kent did that breeding 3 or 4 times. Quintessential, his mother, produced Bailey and all those other champions. One of her sisters, Quinella, produced a dog named Antonio that was also a national specialty winner. The puppy that we just won the nationals with goes back to one of the other sisters. So again, when I tell you look at families, don't just look for a star. Don't just breed to a dog that is a star. Look at a family of dogs. This bitch is the #1 living dam. And, when I said to you, don't be so hung up on being kennel blind. This bitch is not our breeding. She's one that we actually were cutting back by the time we acquired this animal. We had some beautiful, beautiful typey animals. We'd had a lot of winners. We were having a little bit of an issue with size. And, you have to be true to your standard at the same time. Sometimes you want to win. Our standard calls for German Shepherd bitches to be 22 to 24 inches at the shoulder and males to be 24 to 26 inches at the shoulder. Dallas was probably 25 and a half, 26. But frequently in a specials class, he looked small. And Valle was, a very feminine, probably 23-inch bitch. So we didn't necessarily have the size, particularly, in some of the males, to be as competitive as I wanted to be. We won, but I wanted more. So I had seen these dogs, and the problem with in our breed is when you get oversized, frequently they lose quality. They start to look like giant dogs. They get round bone instead of oval bone. They get floppy flews. They get sponginess. They lose their athleticism. This particular breeder, I had seen this dog's mother at some shows, and I wanted him to buy her for me. But she had an overdone kind of hindquarter, and he said, nah, it's too much hindquarter, too much for him. So this woman then said, well, I'll just keep her then, and she bred her herself and produced this bitch. She was a biggish bitch, and her brother's a Grand Victor. I think they have half a dozen champions in this litter. The thing was, Jim said to me, why do you want this other dog now? I thought we were cutting back. And I said, well, I do, but she has what I want if we're going to keep breeding. I'm not, it doesn't have to be one of mine. I'm not shy. I like your dog. Hey, can I breed to it, or will you lease it to me? Or, I want to incorporate that in with what I have, because I think you have what I need. And he said, well, what do you think? And I said, well, they've got the size, they've got the side gait, they're handsome but elegant. It's got everything I like. And I said, we need the size. And I said, I'm getting sick of these 50-pound bitches. And he looked at me and he said, well, I don't mind the 50-pound bitches so much, but I sure hate those 60-pound males. So we got this bitch. And now she's the #1 living bitch. Let's see if I can go forward now. Oh, okay, so back to Dallas and Valle. This is Genuine Risk. She had 100 best in shows. She was OFA excellent and lived to be 14 and a half. That's her younger sister, Geneva. She's the 2007 Quaker Oats winner. Another sibling. Her sister, Gracie, also OFA excellent, just died at 13. Yet another sister, best in shows, select 2 at 7 years of age, which for our breed is pretty good.
Is she the youngest herding title German Shepherd?
Oh, wait, I'm sorry. I'm thinking I'm at Eve and I'm at Charm. See, they look too much alike. I thought I was looking at Little Eve. Yeah, this was Silver Charm. She was select in both countries. She's a best in show winner. She was, at that time, the youngest herding title German Shepherd. She was 11 months old and got it with an extra leg at our nationals. Now Little Eve, who's also a best in show winner and select. This bitch just died 2 weeks ago, a week shy of her 15th birthday. So, you know, you can have these things. I mean, these are all animals that are dual titled. It's possible, but you have to try. You know, if you find, you know, if you've got animal, and I'm going to say to you, some of the times, you know, even now, we've got sort of 2 lines of dogs going forward right now. And one line, they make great show dogs, but they're not easy to live with. And I say not easy. I mean, they're all right, but they're a little sharper than what I would like. They're a little more high-strung. They're not shy, but they're not as easy for your average pet owner to manage. So, to be frank, I've placed them all. They're winners, but not where I want to go forward. Now, this bitch is actually, let me go forward one more. This is Valle's sister, Blondie. Valle was not only a top 20 dam of all time, she was a top 20 performance dam of all time. And that's one of her children. Another OFA excellent. She was the high scoring dog at our national specialty in herding. This is another of her children. This bitch won the group at Bucks. She was selected at the Canadian Nationals. She had 11 agility titles. And in her first litter, she, that's the mother of Aries. When I said she wasn't really attractive, but she did have really good shoulders and gave us sort of what we needed there. Come on. Another one of our dogs, Bronson, a Bailey son, gave us the side gait that we were looking for. Really superficial eye appeal also. Beautiful eyes, beautiful coat. Really, really hard back. A lot of German Shepherds are a little too long and a little soft in back. And this dog is really what did it for us. And I've continued to use him in our breeding program because of that back. And again, you hear me talking about this. We're like taking bits and pieces of different dogs, trying to maintain the same overall look, but trying to compensate. As you see what you need, you look for something else. You know, try to bring that in and fix what you need. Don't just keep going where you're going. If your dogs are starting to get long, do something about it. Don't just let it keep going on. Or if your dogs are too short-legged, or if they're too, whatever it is that you have in your breed, if you have to be brutal, look for what your problems are. Try to stop them before they become absolutely set in stone. This is a son of the bitch that had the agility titles, sired by the dog that you just saw the picture of. Where she fell short a little bit was in her forehand and in her top line. This dog, we bred her to Bronson, and this is the result. He was futurity victor at our nationals and 3 times selected our nationals. It's another one of the Bronson sons. This is Katarina. PAM stands for Performance Award of Merit. I don't know if it's an obedience title or if that's something that our parent club does, but basically it means they titled in 3 performance events with an excellent in at least 1. But again, she was a pretty type, but she could move, and she's got a brain, and she can work. Now, I will tell you, I think she's beautiful. She floats my boat. Her hips didn't pass, and they were not close, and she's spayed, or about to be. This is a young dog that, and you know, and sometimes we don't know why that happens. I'll go back to her. Her mom's OFA excellent. Her dad's OFA good. It's a pretty solid pedigree, but sometimes it happens. If she had been the only animal that was that way, and if it had been really close, I probably would have bred this bitch. She had good elbows. She had so much else to offer. I probably would have bred that bitch, and I would have, to the best dog with the most clear producing hips I could find. And I would have kept them all until they were 6 months old while Jim moaned and groaned. But he lets me. He just likes to fuss. And I would have x-rayed all of them. And if they were all clear, that would have been okay. As it happens, she had a sister that didn't pass either, even though she went select in both countries. So neither one of them is a breeding animal for me. This is a young dog that we love, really love. He's got wonderful temperament. He's got a beautiful type. He's a good mover. He is the best dog, just the best to be with. And see, now I'm a breeder. Here I am. Can you see me smiling? But Jim thinks he's a little on the small side to be competitive, which means he's probably a half-inch oversize.
Like that. He's a little on the correct side, I said, which makes him small.
Like I said, he's probably a half-inch over the standard, but in our venue today, he's probably on the small side because he's correct. Anyway, to a certain point, you have to breed to what makes you happy. I'm at a point in my life, you know, there was a time when I wanted that next champion. I'm at a point in my life where I want a dog that makes me happy. I know what my standard says. I feel like I know in my heart what's right for my dogs. And I'm going to breed dogs that make me happy. If they win, good. If they don't win, I don't really care. I'm taking my dog home. Now, if I really respected the judge that beat my dog, I'd have to look hard at my dog and see if I was falling victim to kennel blindness. But I don't think so. This dog was Grand Victor. Now, this dog is one we bought. His grandfather is our dog Bailey, Aries, but the rest of his breeding is a total outcross. We bought him, actually Jim bought him, to breed to our Bronson daughters. Bronson was, again, a very outreaching dog, but, you know, we needed a little something. Jim saw this dog and he said, hey, take a look at that dog. What do you think? He'd be perfect for our Bronson daughters. He was about 10 months old. I said, yeah, I asked what his pedigree is. So he looked good. I asked what his pedigree was. Oh, great. His grandfather's one of mine? Perfect. So we bought the dog. And as it happens, he made a pretty good show dog. He's the top winning specialty dog in our breed history. He's a grand champion. He won both nationals. He's herding titled. He's OFA excellent. CH HiC. This is a Liberia Sun. Oh, and by the way, the dog that I was so fondly reminiscing about, saying how much I love him. His mother is that black bitch that is the #1 dam of all time, our #1 living dam, and his father is our Bronson dog. This dog is out of Aregon, the Grand Victor you just saw, and the same black bitch. That's my house bitch, Tina, the one recovering from surgery. And, you know, when I look at a German Shepherd, when I look at a dog, of whatever breed, you know, we have other breeds also, I want that dog to please me when I look at it. And I have it sort of a thing set in my mind, what I want them to look like. And this one just fills up my eyes and my heart. I think that's kind of what our breed's about. And then this should have been one up, but I'm going to show it to you. And you can't keep them out of the ring, can you? When you love your dogs, Mr. Moses wasn't happy with the handler that was presenting at the time, and he said he could do this himself, and off he went. I think that's the thing as breeders. You know, we love our dogs, we love our breed. We're trying to do the best that we can. Just sometimes we got to think about it.
2 minutes.
Yeah, yep.
You want that?
They
Is
want
that the last one?
your, yeah, that's it, we're done. Except they want
See if there's any questions.
no, honey, you.
Thank you all for coming. We have,
Honey, they want your input.
no, we have 60 seconds if anyone has any questions.
They want your input, darling.
She said,
Okay.
next basket.
All right.
Thank you all for having us.